sense of how convincing that recovery is for India, especially when you compare to how the demand for agri in India is doing?
So because of COVID, the sector which suffered the most was animal agriculture, which constitutes 1/3 of our agri GDP. There was contraction in demand for poultry, for eggs, for milk. That demand is still struggling because 1/3 of all our food demand is institutional demand. That is still struggling because of COVID, because big part of that consumption is the banquets, the social functions, which were non-existent in the first half of our financial year. And now they have started with severe restrictions. That is where most of the food consumption happens. So I think it will take some more time for that to recover fully. But we also are seeing inflationary conditions because the farmers have not invested in expansion. They have missed a few batches and few crops. So food inflation is likely to be high in the coming months, largely driven by animal protein.
When you take a look at Godrej Agrovet itself, which segments do you think will drive revenue for this coming year?
So big part of the consumption is banking on the rapid vaccination drive, which we are likely to have. We are likely to vaccinate about 300 million people, largely in urban areas where most of this out-of-home consumption happens and drives demand. So we strongly believe that animal protein sector, because both in volumes as well as in prices, will do much better. My sense is that margin expansion as well as top line will grow rapidly. Pure agriculture has not done badly in last 1 year because cereals can be stored and we will generate huge surpluses. But I have a strong feeling that fruits, vegetables, edible oils, and animal protein are likely to do very, very well. We are in chicken, we are in milk, we are in largest producer and seller of animal feeds in the country, and we are into oil palm plantation, and you know what is happening in oil prices. They are almost 30% higher than what they were last year this time. So we see not only top line growth, but also margin expansion in almost all our segments.
Balram, when we talk about agri in India, we have to talk about the farmers' protests, which pretty much have gained momentum over the last few months. Could that weigh on India's growth, you think?
I think one thing which you need to understand is from a lot of laws in India were drafted when we had shortages and we had to import food. Now we are in an era where we are going to generate huge surpluses. And that is where free market and free movement on food products is required, because we cannot consume everything we produce in India. It has to go out at competitive prices. And a lot of economists, including I, feel that this is one of the greatest moments for India where we are unshackling the agri sector. My sense is that the farmers who are protesting are misinformed. In several areas, farmers are seeing benefit of these reforms. And this is only concentrated in areas where farmers were getting a lot of support from the government. In India, unfortunately, most of the benefits are linked to land. The farmers who are protesting are big landlords. They have been getting best benefits from the government. But my sense is that in case we can come to some agreement with them and push these reforms forward, will definitely help. Let me also give you an idea that $150 billion of animal agriculture, which is 1/3 of our agri GDP, has no restrictions, does not receive too much support from the government. We can transport milk, chicken, eggs, fish, prawns, mutton, anywhere in the country at the prices which the farmer wants and which are determined by the market prices. And that sector is growing 8-9% CAGR for last 10 years, whereas pure agriculture is growing less than 1%. So this is what we have seen a free market can do. And we hope that the same thing will happen in pure agriculture also as these reforms take root.
Balram, tell me though, how does that sit though? You said at the beginning that India produces more than it can actually consume, but how does that sit with you suggesting that we could be seeing food inflation because there may be shortages? Give us an idea.
So unfortunately, whenever we talk about food in this country, we miss the nutrition. We only talk about cereals. we will produce more than 200 million tons of cereals, and we will consume about 130, 140 million tons of cereals. So I'm saying that, can you imagine the kind of surpluses we will generate? However, world over, all other agri products, particularly animal protein and oil, are cyclical. So we will have patches of undersupply, patches of oversupply, which will drive inflation. One of the reasons food inflation will happen in Indian economy, particularly in fruits, vegetables, and animal protein, is because of low demand, low prices. The farmers have not invested. They have missed a few batches. They are not. They are very, very wary of future. But this is cyclical. I think shortages for next 6-8 months will be again followed by surpluses. It happens all over the world. You can see what is happening in edible oil, what is happening in soya prices. Shortages will bring in very high price inflation, which will bring more farmers into the game in the next season, and then suddenly surpluses will come. So it is cyclical. But our obsession with cereals has to go, because we are producing way more than what we need.
Balram, I just got to get a sense of, you've got this JV with Tyson Foods for processed, ready-to-eat chicken products. How is that venture going? And is that going to be the model for you as you roll out and try and tap overseas markets?
So I'll just step back and tell you that food processing is still taking roots in this country, because we are not evolved so much as the West in terms of processed food. We just do primary processing of milk, and that is the biggest processing industry we have, almost 20 billion, $25 billion. But I must tell you that this is a long process. Poultry is growing very rapidly in this country. According to me, it is growing at 7-8% CAGR. It is likely to double, because as India becomes rich, poultry will be consumed more, and it is never going to be a pork country or a beef country. So poultry and milk will be the chief sources of protein. Even though poultry market is growing very rapidly, it's close to about $12 billion today, but only about $1 billion is in the processing sector. But we are very hopeful, because even though poultry is growing at 7-8%, the processed poultry and value-added products in poultry are growing upwards of 15% CAGR for last 10 years. It is just a matter of time that we will get, I think, beyond those critical levels where things will start happening. Two things which are critical for further growth in processed poultry in this country is food laws and growth of modern retail because of cold chain requirement. I think both these things will take their own time. So we are very hopeful and we are patient that this business is growing well, and it is likely to become big in times to come.